Some disappointments here, but no surprises. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about some recent election results across the country, specifically 3 places and one big idea that links all these elections together: Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. Now, let's start first things first with my home state of Virginia. You guys may or may not know I was born in West Virginia, West by God, almost heaven, Charleston, right in the dub, Rand, West Virginia, Rand University. That's where I was born. But as a baby, my parents and I moved to Virginia, and that's where I grew up. And I have been all over the state. I've been Richmond, Roanoke, Northern Virginia, Virginia Beach, Seven City, Hampton Roads, 58, 460, 64, 81. I've been all over the whole state. I know Virginia very well. And as a little kid in the 80s, 90s, I was a nerd. I was a 10-year-old, 40-year-old, and I would watch the news during election time, and the map will always be solid red. But I noticed as I got older, as we approached the Obama administration, the state became more and more blue. Until at the end of the Obama administration, it was a solid blue state. And the reason for that is because of the growth and expansion of Northern Virginia. I played a video on here yesterday of a guy freaking out over a Republican poll worker. That kind of guy that was freaking out, that stone cold stomp down liberal guy with a wrinkled up t-shirt and the Prius, that kind of guy is very common in Northern Virginia. And by the way, this particular place is basically the Washington, D.C. bedroom. A lot of the policies from the government, from a lot of liberals, have infected this place. And 1/3 of the state's population lives in Northern Virginia. So, of course, as Northern Virginia goes, so shall the rest of the entire state. So I'm not surprised at what happened. Now, what happened in Virginia? Great question. Glad you asked. The Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin, was attempting to get some rules and laws passed as it relates to abortion and other things with the schooling of our children in Virginia. And he was trying to do this by investing a lot of time, trying to raise money to flip the legislature to get all 3 houses controlled by Republicans. As it stood in the 140-seat legislature, we had the state, I believe we had the state house, but we didn't have the Senate. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments below. But what ended up happening was we lost what we had controlled, and the Democrats kept what they had. So between the House and the Senate, they kept what they had and then gained what they didn't have. So the Democrats control the entire 140-seat legislature. Not all seats, but they control it with a slim majority. I think in the 100-seat legislature, or part of legislature, they have a 1-seat majority. All right. So that's what happened with Virginia. So Glenn Youngkin would not be able to pass so many things he was trying to pass, like the abortion ban, 15 weeks, and some other things dealing with the school system. Because we know about drag queen story time, all kind of things like that. He was trying to stop some of that from going on. That might not be able to work. And the issue of abortion is very important, and it affected a bunch of other races. That brings me to Kentucky. Now, people are trying to blame Daniel Cameron, the Republican nominee for governor, for losing, talking about, oh, he's a bad candidate. He's the current attorney general. People are saying he didn't do enough for Breonna Taylor, and he was a Trump guy, a Mitch McConnell guy. These guys are losers. That's the reason why he lost. Well, let's just wait a minute. He was running up against the incumbent. First of all, Andy Beshear, the Democrat. Second of all, Andy Beshear beat the former, the previous guy. What's his name? Bevins, Mike Bevins, or Matt Bevins. He beat him, and that was a Republican. So this is 2019. What happened back then? What was the excuse back then for Andy Beshear winning his election against the Republican who was already the governor. What was the excuse for that? Maybe, just maybe, Kentuckians, if that's the correct word to use, maybe they like Andy Beshear. Maybe they like and or love his whole family. Maybe he has a very high approval rating and there is no reason to elect someone else. Maybe they wanted to see him in office again. Like, people are talking about the shortcomings of Daniel Cameron, talking about Breonna Taylor, the Trump, the Trump cosign. They say all these things about his shortcomings, but what about the shortcomings of the Democratic governor? Maybe the Democrat in this case is beloved more than the Republican. And that's just what it is. They like him more than they like Cameron and the previous Republican. Some want to say that the election was rigged, which is ridiculous because Kentucky is MAGA country, I guess you would say, except for the governor, because there were other elections in the state. It wasn't just the governor race, and all the other races pretty much went 20, 30 points for the Republican. Now, if that's wrong, y'all let me know in the comments, but that's what I've read. So the question is, what's going on? And of course, Daniel Cameron is the current attorney general as a Republican. Maybe the Democrat is just the better option for Kentuckians, for whatever the reason may be. Some are going to point to the poverty of the state because Kentucky, although you could say it's MAGA country, you could say it's a red state, there are some very, very, very poor parts of the state over in the eastern part, over in the mountains and the hollers. They need some of those checks. And if you're coming in as a Republican wanting to cut government spending, things of that nature, that's not going to go very well in a place like Kentucky. Same thing, West Virginia. It's deep red. It's quote unquote MAGA country, but they still need some checks in them hollers because of the crippling poverty due in part to what the federales have done by closing the coal mines, right? That affected parts of Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. And speaking about Ohio, the main thing they had in their elections was a state amendment to the Constitution that enshrines rights to abortions. Now, that was a very, very big thing. People are kind of scratching their heads like, how can this happen in Ohio? I thought it was a blue state. Well, not a blue state. I thought it was a red state. I thought that it didn't like those kind of things out there. I thought they were more religious. Well, last I checked, Ohio was kind of a swing state. And beyond that, the issue of abortion, I think a lot of people don't really understand how much of a losing battle that might be. Many of us will say, let's have a total ban on it. No abortions. Life begins at conception. And I understand that point. And I don't disagree necessarily. I don't disagree with that point. But is that a winning point to try and make? To me, it's just like gun control on the other side. It's not really a winning point because you have different, look, you got guys like me who are probably going to be in the majority who want their guns. You have different variations, different levels of that kind of person. Some people that say you should have like a regular little sidearm, little pistol to protect your household, little revolver. Some say you should be able to have whatever you want, fully auto, 100 round mag is all good. You got the people who want a regular gun to protect their house, little small weapon, and those who want a whole arsenal, and everybody in between. But I think the people who want their guns are in the majority, and those who don't want their guns are in the extreme minority. So when you try to run on banning guns, that's not going to be popular. It's just not. This is what Stacey Abrams found out in Georgia, which is why she got stomped into wine not once but twice by Brian Kemp in the governor's race because she ran a campaign on gun control. Nobody wants that in Georgia. Nobody. Okay? Black folks, white folks, liberals, conservatives, nobody wants that. And obviously, when you're talking about abortion, it is a thing that the very minority of people want to see banned. And it's unfortunate, and maybe it's a sign of the time, sign of society, But it is what it is. So if we keep running on that as Republicans in some of these states, it's going to be hard to win. It might just be a thing that people lose on. I don't think Daniel Cameron really had a strong stance on abortion for or against, but Andy Beshear ran on enshrining rights to abortion, and he won. So maybe in Kentucky, that's a winning strategy. I mean, look, people could say whatever they want to say. People could say that it's wrong, and life starts at conception. That's where it begins, and that's fine. But is that a winning strategy? That's the question. And I think that issue affected the elections in Kentucky, Ohio, and Virginia. Because remember, Youngkin was trying to pass a 15-week, I believe, ban, right around that. If that's wrong, let me know in the comments. Didn't work. Republicans lost ground. So as I close, I want to say this. I can't say I'm surprised at any of the election results that happened over the past couple of days. Oh, and almost forgot one very important thing. I did a video on a young lady that had an OnlyFans who was running for the Virginia State House. She lost, but barely. She almost won. And that right there kind of tells you what's going on in our society. People want to say that it's rigged and it's not real, all this and that, and the third. I'm not really buying into that. Is there some fraud that happened? Sure, there can be, but I don't think it's enough to really just shape the election to where we have no control. I don't think so. I think what you're seeing is a reflection of what the people are actually thinking and what they're wanting. Fortunately or unfortunately, it is what it is. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what happened with the election results in Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, all over the country? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I can't say I am pleased with the results, but I can't say I'm surprised. There's no surprises here, none whatsoever. And I just hope that in 2024, we're able to have better results, but we need to take some notes and some pointers from what happened here and try to make adjustments, because if we don't, I think we're going to see results similar to what we saw right now in 2023. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.